Welcome to the Warrior's Promise, where we unlock the path to reclaiming your personal power. I'm your host, Victoria Islas, a master trainer, functional health coach, energy healer, and metaphysical practitioner, guiding you through a journey of strength from the inside out. We're going to explore how movement, nutrition, and mindset can help you take back control of your life. This isn't just about fitness or food. This is about healing on all levels, physically, mentally, and spiritually. It's about tapping into your warrior spirit and using that power to face life's challenges with resilience, grace, and confidence. So take a deep breath, stand tall, and let's step into the strength that's already within you. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Warrior's Promise. My name's Victoria Islas. I'm a master trainer, health coach, and metaphysical practitioner. Today we're taking a quick but powerful look at women's history here in the United States. We'll dig into how women's voices were silenced for a very long time and why it's so important for women to speak up now more than ever. We'll also touch on the unique movement called 4B. If you've never heard of that before, I will be getting into it a little bit, which challenges traditional roles for women in a bold way. So I'll break it down into simple, easy to follow sections. So stick with me for the next 15 minutes to get a fresh perspective on how we got here and where we're headed. So let's begin with the brief history of women and their silence in the U.S. To understand why women's voices are so important today, let's start with a quick look back, okay? So in early America, women had almost no rights. No rights at all. They couldn't vote, they couldn't own property if they were married, and had very little say in public life. Legally, they were seen as dependents of their fathers or their husbands, and if you were a woman, your role was mostly in the home, raising kids and taking care of household duties. And this still kind of sounds very common, right? So things began to change in the 1800s. Women started to push for more rights, and this led to the suffrage movement to get women the right to vote. Leaders like Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton fought for decades, facing tons of resistance. But finally, in 1920, the 19th Amendment was passed, giving women the right to vote. This was a huge win, but it was still mostly limited to white women. Women of color faced additional barriers for many, many more years. So fast forward to the 1960s and the 70s, and we see another big shift with what's called the second wave of feminism. And this movement wasn't just about voting rights, it was about equality in the workplace, reproductive rights, and challenging the idea that women's only role was in the home. So women were standing up and saying they wanted more control over their own lives and their bodies. So for most of U.S. history, women were kept out of spaces of power and influence. And society basically told women, stay quiet, stay home, and let men handle things. But that's not the full story. And women have always been fighting to be heard, even when the world wasn't listening. And it's crazy to think that that's where we're at once again, okay? Once again. So why are women's voices so crucial for today? Well, why does it matter that women are speaking up now? Well, because even though we've made progress, there's still a long way to go. Take politics, for example. Women make up over half the population, but we're still underrepresented in government and other places where big decisions are made. So like women's issues, healthcare, family leave, equal pay, that all directly affects us. So it only makes sense that our voices are part of the conversation, obviously, right? Then there's the economic side. So women in the U.S. still earn less on average than men, even for the same work. And this is actually a cool time to kind of talk just really quickly, like a little story. I was working at a fitness franchise, and I just remember standing there, and then everyone started to talk about how much they were earning on bi-weekly and on a monthly basis. And I remember just hearing all the men talking about their pay rate and things like that. And I realized that I was getting paid so much less than my male counterparts, and they sucked at their job. I mean, not to be mean, the majority of them were really lazy, and they were not putting the same amount of work as a lot of the ladies that were there. And that's just the honest truth. And I was like so surprised by that because I just didn't think that was happening still. And I just want to let you know that it is. So even in the fitness industry. Anyway, so when people don't, when women don't have equal pay, it affects not only us, but our families and our communities. So standing up for equal pay isn't just about fairness. It's about financial security and independence. And then finally, there's a need to keep fighting for our rights. Recently, we've seen new challenges around reproductive rights and healthcare access, especially with the overturning of Roe versus Wade. And it's a reminder that rights aren't permanent. And if we don't speak up, we risk losing ground. If we've come this far, and we've come so far, but there's still a lot to protect and a lot more to achieve, right? And so this kind of takes me back to when this happened. I went out and I marched here in my community, and a bunch of us marched. And thankfully, here in Arizona, I think it was called Prop 139. We're good now, right? So we're good with reproductive rights, but there's still a lot of places in the United States where it's not set right still. So we have to get our voices heard for that. And if you're a woman and you're listening to this, it's time to voice up. Now let's go ahead and go into the 4B movement. I want to do a quick overview, pros and cons. If you haven't heard of it, I'm going to explain it right now. And by the way, I am not giving my own personal opinion on this. I'm just laying it out as it is. I consider myself a cisgender lesbian, so I kind of I have a little bit of my own personal view on this, but since this kind of applies more for straight women, I want to leave that out. So let's talk about this unique movement that's been making waves internationally, and it's been popping up a lot on social media lately, and it's called the 4B movement. This movement started in South Korea, and it has four main principles, and they are no dating, no marriage, no sex, no childbearing. So essentially, it's a form of protest, a way of saying we don't want to be forced into traditional roles that don't serve us. So let's get into what are the pros of this movement. First, it encourages women to focus on their own goals and well-being. It's about saying you don't have to be defined by your relationships or your role in the family. And this can be really freeing, especially for women who feel pressured to follow a certain life path. I guess we've seen this a lot, especially in certain families. Another positive is that it's sparking important conversations. So by choosing to step back from these traditional roles, women in the 4B movement are challenging society to rethink what it expects from women. But there's also cons, right? There's also cons to everything. Some people feel the movement discourages relationships, and I totally agree with that, which can be a positive part of life. The idea of stepping away from marriage, family, or even dating doesn't really appeal to everyone, and that's okay. Relationships can be a source of love and support, and some critics worry that 4B might miss out on that. Then there's the cultural factor, right? So here in the United States, the 4B movement started in South Korea, where there are different social norms around marriage and family than in the U.S. And while some parts of the movement resonate here, it's not a perfect fit for every culture or every woman, but it's still inspiring to see women pushing back against expectations and creating their own paths. So now that's covered, right? What can we take away from all of this? So women's voices matter now more than ever. Let me repeat again. Women's voices matter now more than ever. I swear to God, that could be a mantra. So whether it's in politics, the workplace, our everyday lives, we have the right and the power to shape our own future. The progress we've made shows us that change is possible, but it's also a reminder that we can't stop now. And just remember, movements like 4B are just one example of how women around the world are challenging expectations. You don't have to follow the same path as everyone else or anyone else or any other woman. The point is to have the freedom to choose yourself, okay? Anyways, thanks for listening today. Let's keep pushing for a world where every woman's voice is heard, respected, and valued. And I'll see you on the next podcast here on The Warrior's Promise.